I would like to call the BZA Board of July 3rd, 2023 to order. First item, telephones, please put them on silent or vibrate. Next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Happy birthday.
Ms. Harlow? Mr. Horvath?
Here.
Mr. Tripp?
Present.
Mr. Wolf?
Here.
Mr. Deutsch? Mr. Jameson?
Here.
Ms. Kruger?
Present.
Next item is the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
A motion?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, those going to be giving testimony in this hearing, please stand and raise your right hand. The testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Next item is the hearing of appeal BZA 2023-03 T&J Construction 8856 Remington Road. Review of requests to construct a new single-family residence with less front yards and setbacks than required. Brian?
Good evening, Brian Snyder, Hamilton County Planning and Development Services Administrator. You should have a copy of the report for this case that was prepared. As you stated, this is a request for a new single-family house with less front yard setback than required. It's not a very complicated case. The property is on Remington Road, the old part of Remington Road, in the older portion of Remington, south of the railroad, along Glendale Milford Road. The front yard, as it faces towards Remington Road, is not an issue. You can see from the map that there is Remington Road, and then there is another portion of road that runs up along the side of the property. Technically, this is a corner lot, although Remington Road is the only improved road that this fronts on. The house, as it faces Remington Road, would have an 11-foot front yard setback. The required front yard setback in the E district for single-family houses is 50 feet, except that there is a provision in the zoning resolution that allows for average alignment. So if the house next to you is 7 feet from the right-of-way, you're allowed to be 7 feet from the right-of-way as well. And that's the case along Remington Road. The neighboring home to the east is less than 10 feet away from the property, from the right-of-way of Remington Road. So the front yard setback for this property is fine, doesn't need a variance as it faces Remington Road. On the west side of the lot is what we call a paper street. It used to be Main Street for this area of Remington before probably it was cut off when the railroad went through. It hasn't been maintained in years. It's returned to grass. The latest use of that area was for an entrance to a gravel parking lot related to the church that's just south of this, but that hasn't been used by the church in a number of years. I'm not positive that the church is even still in that building. Other than that, it is slightly gravel, grass. It has utilities running through it, but it is not any kind of improved public street, not likely to be one. The existing house was built long before the adoption of zoning in Symmes Township. The proposal is to tear the existing house down and build a new house basically in its same place, the same setback from Remington, and the same setback from the side street, the paper street. Because of that, there wouldn't be any increased impact of this property over what's existing. They're proposing to connect the house to the existing garage, so the garage wouldn't be an issue. The only thing that is an issue with this proposal is the setback along the paper street on the west side of the property. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer them.
Brian, is the building that was the former church, is it still standing?
I believe so.
Any opinion on the likelihood that it would be used for anything again?
It can only be the gravel parking lot you're talking about on the other side of the paper street from the house.
Correct.
It can only be used for an institutional use. There's been interest in using it for commercial purposes, but it's Zone B, single family. So institutional uses like churches and schools are allowed to use residential property with a conditional use approval, but it can't be used for commercial purposes. So through the times that I've had conversations with people about using it, it's been for commercial purposes, and they weren't interested in going through the zone change. That being said, it is a 50-foot wide right-of-way, and the gravel driveway exists almost completely on the other side of the right-of-way from the existing home site.
Brian, have we seen this predicament previously?
We have, I mean, the right across the street from here, I believe, or nearby is Link Road that has a number of summer home type home sites that don't meet zoning because they were developed before zoning. I mean, anytime you have a house that was built before zoning and you have a 5-foot setback and zoning calls for a 15-foot setback, and you want to put an addition on that's even with your house, then you're coming to this board for a board of zoning or for a variance. So yes, we have seen this before.
What you're saying is there are other situations that exist, but has anyone ever done what they're doing in terms of renovating or replacing in kind where this setback becomes an issue?
I don't know that there's an exact situation like this where the frontage was on a paper street. There aren't. The only place where I can think that a lot of paper streets are is in Camp Dennison. There are corner lots with front yard setbacks from the side streets that aren't improved. There, I'm sure that we've had cases come before the board for that. This was Main Street at one point in time, so it's not an alley. There are provisions for alleyways that require reduced setbacks. A lot of the stuff that's in Camp Dennison, the paper streets in Camp Dennison are considered alleys. They're named alleys or unnamed alleys. So I can't think of this exact situation. Lots of additions onto homes that don't meet the setback that just want to keep the same line, but not a complete new rebuild of a house that was torn down. I can't recall one exactly like this.
Is there any negative impact to granting this variance on the community that you can articulate?
No, I wouldn't think so. There aren't a lot of, like I said, there aren't a lot of full-width paper streets left in the township. This house was built before zoning. There aren't a lot of those either. And it's not getting any closer to the street or the street line than the current house is. So if you've been down there before and you drive down there, you know, after they build the new house, you're not going to notice a difference because it's always been there since long before zoning was adopted.
Okay, thank you.
Brian, as you stated in your report, the house was built in 1925, way before these zoning ordinances came through. Is there anything such like a grandfather clause or a grandfathered in?
It is. It's allowed to remain there in eternity. They can repair it and maintain it, but they cannot expand it or reconstruct it without approval of this board.
Okay. And that paper road, do we know when it became a paper road? I mean, how long has it been a non-existent road?
I would guess that it was Main Street in 1926 when the house was built, and it hasn't been maintained as a street in a long time. I mean, it's not the typical paper street that was dedicated but never improved. This one was improved, but it has not been maintained for a number of years. So it's basically in the same situation as the other paper streets that were never improved. It's no longer improved.
Do we know the owner or what denomination of the church?
I do not know.
Are you here present? Okay, will we hear from you, I'm sure.
Well,
Okay,
you'll hear from them later.
good.
Brian, the right-of-ways. Right-of-ways are used when they repair the street that they could put their material there in the right-of-way, whatever they need up to that, whatever the 15 or 20 feet that we're allowed. Does the owner know and is aware of that if they're going to repair that road, that they're allowed to almost put product, whatever they're doing, if they need to?
I believe that
all the
they're
way up to their
aware
house?
that the property next door is right away, yes.
You know, that's what I want to make sure of, because I'm concerned.
Well, they don't own it, so.
What?
I said they don't own that property, so they wouldn't have any expectation of not having somebody else use it for whatever they're allowed to use it for.
Even on Remington, there's a right-of-way, and they're like 9 feet away from the...
Right. I mean, as long as they're not in the right of way, they won't be
Right.
impacted.
Okay. I just want to make sure they're all in understanding of that. Okay. Your mic's on.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Okay. Any other questions for Brian?
No.
No? Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Brian. Okay, those going to give testimony for, please come up, state your name and address, please.
Hello, my name is John Koutros. I live at 6240 Hunt Road, Fayetteville, Ohio. I am the owner of T&J Construction. I'm here to request the variance. I think one of the things that people should keep in mind first and foremost is the house we're proposing is not occupying closer to the existing where it's at now. It's literally the same footprint. It does get a little longer, but it's ultimately the same exact setback as what's existing. So there's no changing the actual footprint of the setbacks that are now. In 25 years, I've never had a house that was so far beyond repair that it wasn't repairable. Initially, my client, Zach White, we were going to remodel and rehab the house. But after we went in and did our demolition, this house was never a house. It started out as a blacksmith shop, come to find out. And we assume in the 1920s it was converted into a house. Well, when you peel back all the layers, you could then see it looked like a horse barn. And there was nothing there to really repair. It was all timber framed. It wasn't typical modern lumber framed. So he had to make a choice because there was nothing there to really save. It was a hodgepodge of different carpenters over who knows how many decades. So we made the decision that we'd be better off to tear this down and start fresh.
Now,
And-
go ahead, I'm sorry.
And that's where we find ourselves now.
Now, this new house, it's going to line up with the other house next to it.
Correct.
In face.
Correct.
Okay.
It's the same exact footprint as what was there. It's there
Well,
now.
what I'm saying is, I don't know if that house is in front of the
No,
house that's
they're
next door,
in
or
line.
they're going to be in line.
Yeah, they're
Now-
gonna be
Now
in
they
line.
have to be in alignment with it.
Right, and they will be. The current house is already in line. So, and we have the owner of the church here.
We'll be getting to everybody.
Okay.
We just,
I actually brought some pictures that I took. I would like to, there's some pictures on these papers they mailed to me, but I'm not sure if you guys actually have a good picture. But I want to show you a picture, the road that's in question, this gentleman is referring to as a paper road. It's clear that it's not being used, and this is kind of a technicality, so that being called a road is making it a corner lot, which in fact it's not a corner lot because the road is no longer used. Can I submit these pictures for everybody to
is
look
it
at?
these pictures?
Yes, sir, but these are a little bit easier to see.
That's fine. You can submit them.
I would like to just be clear, did I just hear you say that the present house now
Mm-hmm.
is 7.5 feet on the
Yes, sir.
western property? And with the new rebuild on top of the house, it still will be 7.5?
Yes, it's gonna be the same footprint.
7.5. And you want to connect the main house
We're
with
making the
garage?
house a little deeper, and then
the
we're gonna
garages.
connect that to the garage with a breezeway.
Okay.
Just so if it's raining, you wanna come in the house, you're not gonna get soaking wet doing that.
But I want you to understand that you're calling that paper street now. It's saying it's not a street.
Correct.
But on our records, it's still a street.
Right,
That's
which-
why you're here,
Yes, sir.
so.
Anything else?
Any other questions?
There's no basement, right?
No. The new house is proposed to have a basement, though. The current house, it was more or less a rubble foundation.
Thanks.
Basically a one-story ranch.
Yeah, for lack of a better
The
word.
basement.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
I want to keep this.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else going to speak for?
It's behind the house, but it's not shown in there.
Hi, Matt Evans. I'm the architect of the project, 7711 Camargo Road, Madeira, Ohio, Arcanum Architecture. I just want to say that when we were designing this, it did start out as a remodel. As we got into the demo, it turned out to be pretty bad. Basically, wood on dirt, maybe some rocks underneath the walls, so there's no foundation. So it necessitated remodeling or tearing down the house. It has, eventually it's going to get torn down. But in the process of the design, the goal was to maintain the location of the front left corner of the house so that we didn't intrude or increase or expand the nonconformity. So the result is that the nonconformity doesn't get any worse. We're maintaining the existing space. So it doesn't get any worse than it already is. That's it. Thanks.
Any questions for the architect? Nope. Okay,
And
thank you.
and the new building's a one-story structure.
Okay.
So.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else can speak for? Please come up, state your name.
My name is Lance White, 8675 Pipewell Lane, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45243. My wife and I are the owner of the church and two small houses that are right there next to the property, across the paper street. We've owned them since 1989, and Zach happens to be my son, just by I don't know. Some chance. It was not why he bought the property, but it just turned out it happened to be next door to property that we owned. And the church hasn't been active for 20 years, probably 15 or 20 years. It's just sitting vacant. The two houses are occupied. We have no intention to put a church in there. I don't know, it may eventually be knocked down, not quite sure. It's not really, either one of the houses would need to be knocked down for parking, or it's just not practical as a church.
So what was the agreement that you had in terms of, did you own that triangular piece where it looks like the parking lot is?
No,
Who
that
owned
was
that?
actually, that's owned by the guy who owns the storage unit across the street.
Okay, all right, got it. So was there just an informal agreement to use that area as a parking?
I guess I wasn't involved in that.
Oh, this is even before your
I
time?
gave it, well, the church contracted with him to lease his gravel triangular piece for parking,
Okay,
but it was not through me.
okay. So to get back there, you had to use a portion of that paper road?
As I understand it, yeah.
So, Brian, does that triangular piece have any kind of, I mean, if say somebody wanted to build a lot on, or a building on that triangular piece, what would be the access way? Would it be the paper road and they would just drive over it and get into their lot, and that's just the way it is?
The current driveway was accessed through a gravel the current parking lot was accessed through a gravel driveway that was in the right-of-way. And you can kind of see it from the aerial photo.
Yeah.
It takes about half of the right-of-way.
Yeah,
If somebody wanted to build back there and use that as their access, they would have to approach the township trustees about what to do with that road.
okay.
It's the township trustees' road. It's their responsibility to maintain, and liability should anybody be hurt in there. So anything that happens in that right-of-way has to have the blessing of the trustees. They either have to vacate it, make it into a private access, or they would have to condone some type of improvement of it.
So when we consider this case today, we consider it as it is today in terms of its use. Is that correct?
We're not, I'm sorry, the board is not considering the right-of-way in any way. You're
No,
just
no, no.
considering a
I'm talking
setback
about the
variance.
setback from the right of way. The paper street.
They're requesting to be 7.5 feet outside of the paper street right away.
Yes, I understand.
Right.
And it's,
And that it doesn't have anything to do with how that paper street in the future, it's today as it is.
Correct. If you wanted to consider the future possibilities of that road, the most that it could be would be one lot on the other side in that triangular portion. It won't likely ever go anywhere else, just because of the embankment and the railroad that exists directly to the north of it, and the fact that Glendale Milford cuts across that and has a bridge already under the railroad there.
Yeah.
I doubt that this road will ever go anywhere other
Okay.
than to that one lot possibly.
Okay, all right, but to that point, it's what it is today is what we're considering, not what it could be.
Correct. I mean, yes, you are looking at it as it sits today, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I did understand that Symmes Township owns that paper road.
Yes, they own the
We
right
own
of
the
way,
road.
yes. It would not be a county road, that would be a township road, yes.
All right. Okay, good, thank you.
So any modifications to it in the future for changes on the south side, they'd have to come through and get permission, and depending on the nature of the modifications to the paper road, they could be denied or approved?
Anything that needed a variance on the other side, yes. Anything involving what happens within the right-of-way for the paper street would be up to the trustees, would not come before this board.
At that time.
Right, correct.
they could sell it, they could do whatever they want.
Yes, correct.
John Kutros readdressing. A side note that should be considered, my client is currently in the middle of negotiations to acquire that triangle piece of lot. We have reached out in regards of the street as well, and we have been told that all we have to do is file the proper paperwork in order to have the street basically divided among the properties, but we did not want to do that until he acquires the triangle property to
Yeah, that's
basically.
down the road. We have
Right.
no control over what happens, because that could go
Right.
south very quickly, let's say.
I just didn't know if it would have a
and,
bearing, so
yeah.
I want to make sure you were aware.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John, before, I have one question. Has there been any research if there's any historical significance in this structure?
There is not. We have
Yeah,
actually
there is
done the
not.
research ourselves. I don't have any of that with me. I didn't think it was pertinent, but it does
No,
not.
President Lincoln didn't stop there overnight or anything.
What's that?
President Lincoln didn't stop there overnight during the Civil War.
Yeah, not that we know of.
No, but Washington did.
But it wasn't built.
So is the building currently gone?
It is now, yes. Yes. We initially didn't anticipate any problems because we thought we did our due diligence up front, and it wasn't until we filed for the actual building permits, which you get those after your demolition permit, that we ran into this little snag, so.
Yeah, we let you tear it down, but we let you build.
Yes.
We've seen this before. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else going to speak for? Anyone else going to speak against? Okay, at this point, I'm closing testimony and we'll go into deliberation. Start with Gary down at the end.
I'm in favor of it.
What?
I'm in favor of it.
Okay.
The answer to all my questions and concerns.
Yeah.
Cynthia?
I'm in favor of it. Isn't really a deliberation, but given the circumstances, I don't see an issue with it. I don't have any concerns.
Okay. Kevin?
I don't see any concerns. I think in the notes, there was also some intent to keep the garage to connect it all together.
Yeah,
So
that's what they're doing.
that seems aesthetically like a good use.
Kevin? I mean, Jack?
I wish they were all this straightforward, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. I mean, I think it's a no-brainer, given what the staff reported in terms of being a paper road and the probability of that becoming anything active. It's, and with the new information about the triangle, that's fine, it's interesting, but it's not really relevant to the fact that we do have this setback. It is a technicality, basically, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Relative to the border of the old road I would be absolutely in favor of granting the variance.
Yeah, we did have, going back, we did have one case where it was a paper road. I'm not sure if they were putting a fence up or whatever,
Yeah, Willow.
but it was a paper road. And because it's a paper road now, you know, it's dirt.
It's dirt.
You know, at one point it was something, but now it's just a piece of land that we own.
Impact to the township in
Right.
total is slim to none.
Right, and whoever will go into some kind of deliberation on that paper road, so, but that's here nor there, because that's in the future.
Right.
So I'm as well for it, so,
Hey, Chairman, can I ask you a question? Can we legally ask, and I presume these two people next to John are the owners, the two lovely, nice people there, okay? What are they gonna do with it? Can we ask the homeowners? We can't ask.
No, they're
them.
building
Would they plan to flip it, or they plan to?
they could, we
residential?
can't ask them that.
And definitely a
Because-
bit, you know, not.
I mean, they're coming to us
We
to
can't do
build a
that.
residence on it. And,
That's why I want to ask first.
you know,
No, we're close.
and we have to deal with it at that, what they're telling us they're doing. What it's gonna be used for down the road, I mean, we can't talk about it, because we don't know.
B&B?
It can be a B&B, you know, that's
But then that's a whole nother set
That's
of
a whole
rules,
regulations,
so we might see them again.
you know, but they're
later.
building a residence on this.
Don't make
piece
it a
of-
B&B, please.
They're building a residence on this piece of property.
Right.
So, and that's what they're coming to us for.
All we're worried about is the setback. That's
And,
it.
and the only thing in front of us is setback, because the house is, we give them the setback, they can build a house. If we don't give them the setback, they can't build a house. So,
Thank you for the clarity. Thank you for the clarity.
does anybody want to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the variance as submitted.
I'll second.
Okay. Any concerns?
Take a vote.
Okay, let's take a vote.
Mr. Horvath,
I approve.
Mr. Trick,
Aye.
Mr. Wolf,
Yes.
Mr. Jameson,
Yes.
Ms. Bucco.
Yes.
Go forth and build.
Yep.
Good luck.
Yep. Have a great day.
Do we have to approve the minutes from last?
Yeah,
What, the next item is old business.
John? Hand these back to you.
Technically, they belong to
Thank you for
us.
having them.
Gary, technically, they belong to us. The minute he submits them to us, they belong to us.
Learning something new every meeting. Thanks, Ralph.
Yeah, they submitted it to the board, it becomes part of the hearing. That's not a problem. Any,
That's our evidence.
Luann, any old business?
well,
No old business?
we lost our court case about the
Of what?
Airbnbs. We lost our court case.
What does that mean?
Which means,
The court sided with them. They're allowed to continue.
Are you talking about the one from
January.
January?
Lebanon Road, Bent Creek, and Meadow Knoll.
do we have the process to appeal?
And then Humphrey, the one on Humphrey, they,
Approve.
no, that one is also pending. That one's still pending.
Oh, that's.
Okay.
Just got served papers last week.
I'm gonna speak to Brian about all of that, what the next steps we can do.
Does Mrs. Fowler know?
Well,
that?
anybody new from now on is gonna have to file conditional use, but they're gonna,
So the court case
they're allowed to
is,
continue.
Their grandfather did.
Their
So-
grandfathered in.
so the court case is only relative to that individual, those three properties?
Those three properties,
That's
maybe four, because Humphrey's not decided yet.
Their
Okay.
grandfather did.
So from that standpoint, thereafter, everything is under what the trustees approved in June.
Correct, correct.
So we should
Anything
never
new.
see another one like that asking to be grandfathered.
No.
It doesn't mean
Okay.
that there aren't out there, they just haven't been.
Because there's a bunch of other things I would like, I wanna talk to Brian after the meeting,
Okay, gotcha.
see what has to be done.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Can we appeal?
New business?
Can we appeal, Brian?
You as a board cannot appeal, no.
No, but can
No.
township?
That would be between the trustees and the attorney for the trustees, yes. They can have that discussion. I'm not sure what their
New business?
decision would be.
Okay.
I don't have any new business.
New business? Administrative matters and approval of minutes of March 6th, 2023. Everybody has a copy of that? Did everybody read it?
Yes.
I hope we did. I move that we approve the minutes of March 6th, 2023.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Cynthia abstains.
I abstain on that one.
Oh,
Luann.
yeah, Jack. Okay.
I
Jack and
abstain
Cynthia.
also.
So we still have 3, so that's good. Okay, next item is adjournment. I move we adjourn.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
So be it.
Terrific.
Everyone have a...